Hello and welcome to Talking Live. We are so excited to have actor, producer, writer, and anti-bully consultant or support. He leads a support group for people who are bullied. Kanen, I am thrilled to have you on Talking Live.
Thank you, Dr. Robi. It's really a pleasure to be with you.
Now, first of all, I have to tell you, in full disclosure, I was a fan for a long time. I watched General Hospital, so I knew you as AJ Quartermain.
Yeah.
And just, oh my God, you were incredible. And then I found you on two of my colleagues' shows. And I said, I have to get Sean for my show. And fortunately,
thank you very much.
They were generous. So here you are, here we are.
Excellent. Let's do it.
So you started acting pretty young. You were in The Karate Kid. You've been on multiple soap operas, Bold and the Beautiful, Young and the Restless, General Hospital. I think that's all there is. Are there any you haven't been on?
I was on the Aaron Spelling soap opera Sunset Beach while it was on the air.
Oh, okay. Do you have a favorite soap opera character that you played?
Yeah, I would have to say it was playing Deacon Sharp on The Bold and the Beautiful and the Young and the Restless. You know, anytime you get to play a character that crosses over to another show, you're kind of instantly, you're one of a relatively few group of people that have had the privilege of doing that. But I really love the character. I got to play this real bad boy who I think in a lot of ways, it was so much cooler than I am. So I got to kind of live out this fantasy of playing the tattooed, smoking bad boy on TV, because that wasn't who I was in real life. And as the character developed, he emerged with this kind of weird code of honor and kind of was, I always, a little bit like the hooker with the heart of gold, you know what I mean? And so, when you're on a soap opera, the worst thing in the world is you play somebody that is like just a goody two-shoes character. You really want to be somebody that kind of dances among the shades of gray, because that's when you tend to get the most interesting stories.
I tend to hear that a lot from actors. They love playing a wicked character. And I guess you get to explore the primitive side of human nature, which is fun. I always wonder, though, and this goes for acting, period, but specifically for soap opera actors, because they work harder than any other actor. There's so much to memorize. How do you do that?
I always equate it a little bit to like going to the gym. The more you lift weights, the stronger you get. It really is. In a lot of ways, it's like the McDonald's of acting, because you're forced to make, the best choices as quickly as possible. But come rain or shine, you're going to grind out like 75 or 80 pages, because most shows do 1.5 shows a day, because soap operas, which are on 5 days a week, but unlike a show that has like a 26-week season or a 22-week season, they're on all year round. So you got to bank the shows. So you've got to be doing more than one show a day to make sure that, if Christmas Day falls on a weekday and people turn the show on, there's a show. So, I always wonder, like new guys and girls coming up, it almost doesn't matter. You can be a terrific actor, but if you're not capable of handling the voluminous amount of dialogue, it's going to be really for you to stay, because it's a machine. I mean, they're turning out product, and you can't gum up the works. So I've always been pretty good at memorizing, but you either get real good at it or you get, let go.
It just really amazes me, because it's not only memorizing something, you have to embody the character. And I also wonder, just being a therapist, did that interfere with you living your life? Like you have to sit all night and memorize. You can't get a certain sense.
It doesn't take me all night. I mean, after having done it for so many years, I've got a system that works for me. It doesn't take me all night. I start a couple days out, because I haven't been on a soap opera, mind you, for like 4 years. So I've been doing other things, but I've been doing my show Studio City on Amazon, and I've been doing films and stuff. But my process was, you get the script a week in advance, but you couldn't even look at it really. You look and see what you're doing, but then you got to put it aside because I had 3 more in the queue. So about 3 days before the show is when I would start really working on it, and the memorization is not the hardest part, though. A lot of times soap operas get a bad rap because the structure of a soap opera is that if somebody didn't tune in on Friday and they tune in on Monday, they need to know what happened. So consequently, you're repeating a lot of the same exposition. There's very little movement in the soap opera. You're basically moving so that you're not watching an oil painting, right? But so it's just talky. I think it's a great training ground. And when you go to do a film, generally you're doing 10 pages a day, maybe. And so a lot of, Eric Roberts is a friend of mine, and Eric is a big film actor. And
Julia Roberts' brother, Emma Roberts' father.
Julia Roberts' brother, yeah. He came over to Young and the Restless. We were on for a while, and he was like, wow, man, like, how do you guys do this? Because he came from a world where you would have the luxury of doing 10 pages a day and really, having your master shot, your close-up, your reverse master, blah, blah, blah. And in daytime, you're using 3 moving cameras, and if you're lucky, you get 2 takes.
Yeah, well, hats off to you. You sent me, when we were corresponding about this interview, Studio City, which is now on Amazon Prime.
On Amazon Prime exclusively, yes.
Okay, honestly, binge watched it. Loved it that much. And what I loved about it was kind of like an inside access to the soap opera world, the ageism, the sexism, the superficial relationships.
Yeah. They say write what you know. And I mean, at the risk of sounding arrogant, I mean, there's really no one who is going to be able to better tell me what it's like to be in daytime, having worked in daytime off and on for 3 decades. Like that's I know that. I know what it's like to be a young guy in daytime, and I know what it's like to be a guy in his 50s in daytime. And I really wanted to show, I wanted to have a show within a show. But, ostensibly, when you look at the lead character, my character, Sam Stevens, who plays Dr. Pierce Hartley on the #2 soap opera in the country, Hearts on Fire. But here's the thing, you look at this guy and you think from the outside, this guy's got no problems. He's on TV, he's surrounded by beautiful women, he makes a lot of money. And then as the onion gets peeled back, you realize that he's got this younger, kind of better looking guy nipping at his heels at his job. He's in contract negotiations, and they don't really know if they want to, keep him on. He's got mommy issues, all sorts of issues, right? And he's a guy that always thought that he should have had a kind of a bigger career. And in his mind, it was being an action star. And conversely, not just a bigger career, but a bigger life. And a bigger life, without the spoiler alert, comes in the form of somebody who shows up at the end of the pilot that he never knew existed and turns his entire reality upside down. And, a lot of the stuff that transpires in the show are sort of amalgamates of things that I've gone through, not specifically always, but the flavor is what my experience has been. And, it was really important to me that the show within the show was not done with this sort of overly hyperbolic acting where it's like a wink. It's whenever actors portray somebody in a soap opera in film or TV, they feel like they have to kind of wink and nod to the camera that we're going to do this sort of overly dramatic acting so that that we're good actors and and it always pissed me off. I really did bother me. And so one of the mandates that I gave everybody was, I want you to play the scenes within the show as straight as possible. Sometimes we goose it with the dialogue and it becomes funny, but it's not that we're making fun of the medium.
I also, what I liked about your show is that you bring in other soap opera actors as well. And can we say that also there's someone in your family that's an actor? Can we reveal that?
And my beautiful stepdaughter, Juliet Vega, plays a main character. And, you know, she's always wanted to act. And she had done a couple things when she was younger. And I said, listen, I'll give you an audition for this part, but I mean, this is my baby. And if you can't handle it, I'm not tanking my show. And we brought her to the studio and she sat down with me and my wife, who's a producer and a writer, and our showrunner, Tim Woodward Jr., who's the director. And to her credit, she nailed it. And
she was fabulous and adorable, by the way.
Now she just finished a movie with Billy Zane, and now she's like doing all this stuff, and I'm waiting for her. So,
do you like the writing aspect of it? Because I know in terms of my world, so I do several things. I have a private practice. I do psychological commentary on TV. I write. I really like being able to control certain components of my career. It just feels more creative to me. Do you feel that way as well?
I feel that my wife and I make a really great writing team because she has that monastic sensibility where she will sequester herself for days on end and write. And she's very detail oriented and very structurally oriented. I think that I'm very good with dialogue. I approach writing a scene very much the way I approach acting in a scene, which is, you know, you have a goal, you have an obstacle or a series of obstacles and a series of actions that you're going to undertake to overcome the obstacles to achieve the goal. You know, sometimes we charm people, sometimes we make them laugh, sometimes we make them feel guilty, whatever. So I think she and I work really well together. I like writing when it's clicking. I don't like it when it's not clicking. I mean, that's kind of like saying, listen, I like writing, but I really love acting, you know, and I'm writing my book right now too. It's my third book. And
so let's talk about your third book.
The book is called Way of the Cobra. And Cobra is an acronym for character, organization, balance, respect, and abundance. And these are battle-hardened strategies that I have used and know work. They allowed me to, you know, create an Emmy Award-winning Amazon TV show, to co-author an Amazon new release bestseller called Success Factor X, which Book Authority named one of the 20 most inspirational books of the last 2 decades. And I lost.
That's not easy to do either. So kudos to you on that.
And I did it all in 1 year. And these are the strategies that I use. I know they work. You know, I thought about why I'm an actor. And as much as I love acting, I think the genesis of it really was a desire to inspire people. And, you know, as a younger guy and to express myself. And that's why I got into acting. But really, I love, you know, doing motivational speaking and coaching. And I love writing this book because I really believe that I've got something that can help people and inspire them. And that fuels me. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And that's another thing I talk about in the book. You know, you have to have a really profound why. You know, your why is what's going to drive.
It's purpose, don't you think? I mean, I think one of the things that at least gives my life joy is just having that purpose and passion. They go together. And when you have that, I think that's the secret ingredient to Absolutely. A really enriched and fun life, I would say.
I completely agree. And, you know, I think there's one more thing too. And this is a lesson I learned from my wife. It's the difference between being happy and feeling good.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, I always joke to her, you know, you can take anyone to Paris for a weekend and pretty much have fun. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
But
not now, but usually.
Yeah, no. And actually, I've taken someone to Paris and it wasn't so great. But what I'm saying is, you know, you can have a great life and be happy, and you can be dealing with some challenges and obstacles and crap, for lack of a better word, and still be happy. You can be on a yacht in the Med drinking Cristal champagne and not be a happy person, but you can be feeling good, feeling well. And I think it's really important that you learn to differentiate that. and you learn that, into each life some rain shall fall, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, you can't be happy. But I mean, happiness is an inside job. You know that, doctor.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is especially useful now when everybody is under lockdown. You really
Sure.
have to stop and reflect and ask yourself questions. What matters? Who matters? And how do you continue to create the life that you want to have? And it sounds like your book is a perfect companion piece to help people get there.
It is. And, I think, one of the little tips that I have, and it sounds, it may sound a little Pollyanna, but really in the morning, if you pray, if you have a higher power, whatever you do, I think of 5 things that I'm really grateful for. And they could be something as simple as, I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for my dog. I'm grateful for the roof over my head, the food that I have, and the fact that I've got a loving family. And the other thing too is I think it's really important that, we all got kind of dealt a lousy hand here with having to change our lives completely. But it's the difference between, do you want to just survive or do you want to thrive? You gotta adapt and overcome. And for me, one of the biggest things is that I never really used Zoom before, and now it's become an integral part of my life for communication. But it's opened up a lot of really great friendships and relationships. And it's like, how can we take what is for some people an untenable situation, for other people difficult, and for most people just inconvenient, and say, okay, I'm not going to use this as an excuse to write 2020 off as being a dumpster fire. I mean, I know a lot of people are hurting, and so I don't want to seem glib, but in a lot of ways for me, 2020 has been a very productive year. I mean, there's been challenges and difficulty and all of that, but it's all about, what can you do to try and make this the best use of your time? And even if it's something just as simple as, checking in on friends a couple times a week, checking in with family, staying connected, then you're doing something.
I do think that this is a time where people are realizing who they love and reaching out to the people that matter. You do such a great service, I want to call it. You are part of an anti-bullying campaign, and this is near and dear to your heart as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'm one of the international youth ambassadors for Buddha Bullying. It's a phenomenal organization. We will go into schools and facilitate a dialogue with kids. And the thing about bullying is that it's like a triangle. You've got the kids being bullied, the kids doing the bullying, but you've also got the kids that are sort of witnesses to the bullying that are being traumatized. And we facilitate this dialogue, and it's amazing because you start seeing the kids who are bullies, and they sort of break down and say, I didn't realize I was doing this, or I'm doing this because this is going on at home. And it's really cathartic. I was really severely bullied when I was a young kid, and to this day, I don't want to say I carry the trauma around, because I have made peace with it, and that's another thing that I talk about in my book. But what's interesting is that I grew up to play this iconic villain, Mike Barnes in the Karate Kid 3, and so when I do these. When I go to these schools, I always show a clip of me terrorizing, Daniel LaRusso, and I say, now, would you believe that scary guy used to get bullied? And it opens up, their minds, and creates a bridge where I'm kind of able to talk to them. And I think a lot of times.
Did you learn anything? Did you learn anything when you were playing that role and playing the bully? Did you gain any insights to the bully mindset?
I don't know if I did while I was playing it. I think it was more of a slow drip afterwards, over the years, when I sort of realized, that this had done some significant damage to me that I needed to address and repair. And look, bullying is, and again, I'm not trying to make light, but it is pandemic. I mean, with cyberbullying, kids are now getting bullied 24 hours a day, everyone in their school with one stroke. And I know you know this, but suicide is the fourth leading cause of death among kids, and it's tragic. And I'm not talking about, I'm talking about young kids who are taking their own, crushing. It's crushing. Yeah, and you know,
is there any intervention that we've discovered that can help stop this problem? From the research I've done, it has to be somewhat of a community issue. You know, that you address it in the school, outside the school, in families.
You know, I think there's a lot of different things at play. I think one thing at play is that we like with the Me Too movement, when, you know, it's no longer acceptable to say, oh, it's boys being boys, or even with bullying, boys being boys. And I'll tell you something else: the girls a lot of times are worse than the boys. And I'm not saying that with a wink and a nod. Or they can be
yes, because girls are verbal and they get more intimate with their
they're also physical too. I mean, I see videos of girls fighting, and it is terrifying. I think that we have to create an atmosphere where it's just not tolerable to do that, but it has to be balanced with an understanding that you're not a victim. Stop being a victim, because there's we have largely facilitated a society where victimhood has a lot of privileges. You know, there's belonging, there's empathy, there's all sorts of stuff that in society we now award victims, and we got to be careful with that too. And you know, we've also facilitated this idea that shame is always bad. And I disagree. I talk about the difference in my book between shame and toxic shame. Toxic shame is bad. Toxic shame humiliates and debilitates. Shame is when you know that you have cognitive dissonance because maybe you didn't do your best, and you let that shame push you. You know, you let it spur you on to do better. Or if you behave in a way that you know is wrong and incorrect and not commensurate with, you know, your best self, that shame stings a little bit, but not to the point that it's a debilitating albatross, but it coaxes you into being a better person. And you know, we've also got this society where, you know, everybody's getting a trophy for 8th place because we were so afraid of shaming somebody. And you know what it is? It's we got to find homeostasis. We got to find balance. Things are a little out of whack right now. However, I would rather.
I agree. That's not the real world. You don't want to raise kids that can't handle reality, because that's not helpful to them either. In fact, it increases anxiety and depression. We do something on our show called the Quick Five. I hope you'll do it with me.
Oh, sure.
Where we ask some fun questions. Okay. Are you ready? Quick Five, Sean. If you had to pick a new name for yourself, what name would you pick?
Slappy Feinstein. No, I don't know. What new name would I pick for myself? Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I never really liked Sean growing up until I learned about Sean. I always liked the name Jack, to be honest.
You can look like a Jack.
I like Jack.
Yeah, you could look like a Jack.
I had a great grandfather named Jack, so yeah, that works.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Boy, I've received a lot of good ones. I'll tell you one, and I don't know I'll tell you two actually. One is from my grandpa Sidney, who's passed away. He was a veteran and a doctor, and you know, one of the greatest generation. And it's so simple. And he said, advice is free. And he said, the reason it's important is that you may learn something really great, or you may get to see behind the curtain about who somebody is, and that's equally as important. And that's always stuck with me. So I like to try and listen to what people offer me. The next one comes from my uncle, who was his son. And he said, things aren't always what they seem. Skim milk masquerades as cream. And you know, this is again something I talk about in my book, about defining your success, not your success as told to you by Madison Avenue commercials or by Uber airbrushed models on the cover of magazines or on the conspicuous consumption of insecure celebrities on their Instagram feed, but what is that internal barometer in you that lets you know when you've been successful? And there's an analogy I talk about in the book, and I say, most people would not immediately consider somebody who has been a custodian or a janitor for 30 years as necessarily being successful. But I say, what if that same guy saved all of his money and put his only daughter through medical school, who became a trauma surgeon and went on to save hundreds of lives over the course of her career? I would say that guy's very successful.
I would agree with you. When you're having a bad day, what do you do to make yourself feel better?
Usually vodka. No.
Okay.
What do I do to make myself feel better? I think the first thing is recognize, hey, look, I'm having a bad day, and everybody has days. I try and do my best to kind of disrupt the state, because sometimes, have you ever done the thing where you're late, and then you drop your keys, and then you bend down and kick them across the room, and then you knock into something, and it becomes like this 3-ring circus, right?
Yeah,
so,
Murphy's Law. Law.
So it's kind of important that you disrupt that pattern. So, my wife taught me something it's so simple, but it's funny. Have you ever had we call it a tech rebellion, when you can't get the computer to work and your devices won't work? She's like,
I had that
off.
today, in fact. Well, I was printing out the show, which is why everything is longer than the card. But whatever. Okay.
She's shut them off for a while, and you kind of literally reboot. So that's what I do. And, I'll either exercise, or I'll, it's all about changing your state. I'll turn some music on. I'll do something that is going to kind of jolt me and let me get back to center. And then, you know what, doctor, there are times when you just have a crappy day. It happens, and
allow it.
Sometimes what I do, honest to God, is I'm just pulling the ripcord, and I'll go to bed around 7:30 or 8, and tomorrow's another day. And, rarely do I wake up and feel the way I did the day before.
You have a great attitude. Okay. What is your dream job?
My dream job is to do exactly what I'm doing on a larger scale, to have the ability.
I always say the same thing.
Well, yeah, I'm doing what I love doing. I love acting. I love producing and writing, and I love speaking to people.
You're really good at it. You're really good at all the things you love, which I think is really important too, because some people love things that they're not good at, but you're really good at what you love.
I would have loved to have been a heavyweight boxer, but it wasn't in the cards. But I would love to eventually, be speaking in large venues and helping as many people as I can to kind of discover what their inner masterpiece is, which is.
Have you done a TED Talk with your book?
I have not yet.
You need to do that.
I would. I've got lots of stuff I could do.
Send you to somebody who trains people for that if you want.
That would be fantastic. I would love that.
Yeah, I'll hook you up. Okay, who would play you in a movie of your life?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Who would play you in a movie of your life?
Oh, no, our dog is not playing me, darling.
That is hilarious. You need to bring her in. She's an award-winning writer. We like that. That's funny.
You know what's weird about that is that, the character that I play in Studio City is very similar to who I am. The circumstances differ, but there's a whole lot of Sean in Sam Stevens, and so I'm effectively playing a guy that would play me. But if I could be really vain and I don't know. I mean, would I go for the most accurate, or would I be like, let's get Brad Pitt in there? So I don't really.
Listen, I interviewed Larry King because we go back. I would do Larry King all the time. And somebody bought the rights for his story. I said, Larry, who would play you? He goes, well, Brad Pitt, of course. I was like, of course.
I love it.
Who else? Oh my God, you are a pleasure. And it was lovely to meet your wife before we actually got onto this interview. Tell everybody what you're working on, where they can find it, and we'll have links up so people can get your book and find the latest projects that you're working on as well.
So please check out our show, Studio City, exclusively on Amazon Prime. We were nominated for 8 Emmys. It's a terrific digital series. I'm also going I'm also going to thank you. I'm also going to be doing a Zoom experience with Ron Thomas, who's another one of the actors from the Karate Kid world. That's going to be on December 4th. And I sent you the information for that, and people can join me for that. And I am going back into a room right now to continue writing my book. And I'm absolutely going to take you up on your generous offer.
Yes, really do. Really do. If you want anything psychological, that's my field. If you want me to sing, no. Cook for you, no. But psychological, assessments I could do.
Well, I will absolutely do that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this. And I hope we can do this again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you, Talking Live audience. We look forward to seeing you next week.